Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Seahawks Central, your center for everything Seahawks. I'm your host, Joseph Jones, and today we start the series going through each and every one of the Seahawks 17 regular season games. Week 1 in Seattle, we host the 49ers. I'm going to be going through some of the storylines, narratives, newer developments, and recurring patterns with these divisional opponents. These are the storylines I have written down for this matchup. I'm going to try to keep it quick and concise, not deviate too much from the content on your screen because I do want to hit all these points. Some of these storylines pertain to either the Seahawks or 49ers exclusively, and then the others can be applied to either of these teams with there being a difference of implications. We'll start off with Brock Purdy and the 49ers. There's been a lot of lingering questions on whether Brock Purdy can elevate this offense and whether his success is system driven or not. He was tested last year and he didn't perform as well as I'd assume the 49ers would hope so. Guys like Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams have had durability issues, and so that might contribute to their success or failure. And then players like Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall may have to step up and fill the shoes of Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, as Brandon Ayuk may not be ready for this Week 1 game, and Deebo Samuel was traded to the Commanders. Brock Purdy is obviously a good quarterback, and he's familiar with his system, and so it's just the players around him coming together is what is going to make or break this game for him. For Sam Darnold and the Seahawks, I think QB comfortability depends on whether or not we're able to establish that run-first philosophy. That's what's huge. That was one of the main reasons we fired Ryan Grubb and hired Clint Kubiak. It'll be interesting to see how he deploys these four running backs. And then obviously you have to acknowledge the offensive line. They have to be able to pass block, give Sam Darnold time to make his reads, especially because we might be doing shorter, quicker passes because we don't necessarily have a solidified deep threat. So yeah, I just think having that rapport with his receivers and tight ends and just that the offense is functioning without him. So when he is on the field, he is a difference maker.
So I'm gonna go a little into Clint Kubiak and his role on this offense as our new offensive coordinator. I know it might seem a bit redundant to have him as one of the storylines because of the fact that he is probably going to be a storyline in each and every one of these matchups. I'm going to go through some of the things that we should expect from him and maybe some of his schematic tendencies.
So first, I want to acknowledge Clint Kubiak's authority on this offense. Because of the fact that Mike McDonald is a defensive-minded coach, this is Clint Kubiak's offense. We saw his play calling in New Orleans, and though it wasn't spectacular, I think there's a lot more talent on the Seahawks roster, and it'll be interesting to see how he deploys these specific positional groups. We have immense depth and honestly a three-headed monster at running back and tight end. Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, and Kenny McIntosh. And then for the tight ends, Noah Fant, AJ Barner, and Elijah Royal. I think it'll be really interesting to see how Kenneth Walker thrives in this outside zone scheme where he can create separation and make a man or two miss and hopefully further prevent injuries. For Charbonnet, that he's able to come in on these short yardage situations and bulldoze a man and help us on the line of scrimmage. And then for Kenny McIntosh, just that he's properly utilized, that he's been given those opportunities as a pass catching back, and that he just gets on the field more. For Noah Fant, AJ Barner, and Elijah Royal, I think Noah Fant has kind of solidified that mentorship role to AJ Barner and Elijah Royal. Obviously, they all have amazing physical skill sets. AJ Barner has amazing run blocking and really reliable hands. And then Elijah Royal, he has untapped potential. And hopefully the Seahawks are able to work with him. He's an amazing vertical threat, and we could use that size in the red zone especially, and on outside run blocking plays. It'll be interesting to see where he positions the players. And then just the personnel, how many tight ends we usually will see on the field, because I think those tight ends could give us an edge over almost any NFL defense. For lack of continuity / inexperience, kind of just want to go over the holes in each of these teams' roster and just some things to point out that might cost either of these teams the game. For the 49ers, I think there's a major presence of inexperience on that defense just because of the fact that Malik Mustafa might not be ready for week one. I know Jair Brown was struggling with some injuries. They lost Charvarius Ward. They lost Dre Greenlaw. They traded for Bryce Huff, which hopefully gives them some veteran presence on the D line, but it may be difficult to overcome those problems. And maybe later on in the season, those players start to hit their stride. But as of week one, we don't know what to expect from these rookies and these players that are stepping in for either lost or injured veterans. For the Seahawks, I feel like it more so pertains to lack of continuity. Not necessarily on defense because we retained all of our starters. Mike McDonald has a year under his belt as a Seahawks defensive play caller, and we brought in guys like Shaquille Griffin and Demarcus Lawrence. But on the Seahawks offense, we rehauled, we moved a lot of pieces like Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, releasing Tyler Lockett. We hired Clint Kubiak as our new offensive coordinator, and there's a lot of new faces in the building. Um, Most importantly, being our quarterback Sam Darnold. We signed Cooper Cup and then drafted guys like Gray Zabal and Arroyo, who potentially could be starters. And um, I think there's a lot of expectation from this team, and I'm not so sure that all the pieces are there, especially on the offensive line. I think we did pretty little to address it in free agency, and it just might not work well. I want to make an equivocation to last year with this defense and the linebacking core when it just had to be revamped. We had to get rid of those players, and I trust in this coaching staff to make the right adjustments. But there's obviously going to be some skepticism on whether the lack of chemistry will hurt the Seahawks in week one. So the next storyline is home field advantage, and then in parentheses I have disadvantage. I don't want to spend too much time on this. It's pretty self-explanatory. Seahawks played very, very poorly at home. They were 3-6 after a 2-0 start. These divisional games are really crucial, and the Seahawks need to have their fan base supporting them. It can make or break the season, and we've seen it time and time again in recent seasons, especially with the Rams games and even the 49ers games the past few seasons. There's just been, I guess you would say, a depletion of morale. There hasn't been as many fans excited, and I know they've gone to some measures to stricten the reselling policies, but we should have fans that are excited, and the team should play well enough at home to where fans are eager to come to these games. So, impact of starting rookies. This one's really intriguing for me. I'm going to start with the 49ers because they had the higher draft pick in Micah Williams. I'm not sure that Micah Williams will be starting because they traded for Bryce Huff. Obviously, you have Nick Bosa opposite of that. I think draft picks like Alfred Collins and CJ West were kind of driven by need, and even Nick Martin. We'll see if they win any of their positional groups. I think even a guy like Stout could win that slot position. We'll just have to see. I'm not sure that they set themselves up well. I wouldn't know because I'm not an NFL scout, and I don't know all about these players, but I think they absolutely could be liabilities, just as the Seahawks rookies could be. But once you're replacing established veterans for rookies, especially when that draft pick is driven by need and the player isn't as good as a team estimates, it could create some problems. So, yeah, for 49ers, I'm not sure that they're going to get as much production from the rookies in this week one game as they'd hope, just because there's not as many starters. All bias aside, I like this so much more for the Seahawks because of the quality and quantity that they found in the draft. The headline was Gray Zabel in the first round. I think he's already a solidified left guard for the Seahawks. No competition. And then guys like Emin Wari and Arroyo are not too far down the depth chart, and they can easily work their way up. Emin Wari could be safety number one in some packages and maybe even play nickel. And then Torrey Horton, because of the lack of depth that we have at wide receiver, he could easily be starting by mid-season or even the start of the season for the Seahawks. Robbie Oots is going to be our fullback. I doubt we keep more than one on the roster. And with how expendable our running backs have been with getting injured, I do think Damian Martinez could play a running back 2 or even 3 role for the Seahawks. Ricky White will be present on special teams to make those plays. And honestly, I can see the Seahawks completely flipping this game just from their rookie presence. The turnover battles is not really a talking point. I just wanted to acknowledge it, especially in these divisional games. Obviously, the Seahawks and 49ers both have to capitalize. The 49ers have enough offensive efficiency that they can rely on their defense to get them out of those scary situations, and then they can clap back and score a few points. I think we want to see more of that from the Seahawks with their efficiency and moving down the field methodically to cash in after those turnovers. For the retaining consistently storyline, I think it goes kind of hand in hand with the lack of continuity slash inexperience in a way. I know it might seem contradictory the way I worded it, but it's just the idea that you're retaining production and even that you're surpassing production levels of years prior. With the 49ers, they lost a bunch of veterans, including Dre Greenlaw, Hufanga, Debo Samuel, Shavarius Ward, and Javon Hargrave, just to name a few. And it can be difficult to replace that supposed success. Not to say that those players were entirely reliable last season, but their production must be replaced with adequate production. I feel like it might be difficult for them. There's a lot of media stigma around the Seahawks losing Metcalf, Geno Smith, and Tyler Lockett, which are players that played amazingly for us throughout the years, but they often came liabilities, and we had to cut our ties with them. I know it might appear as if I'm being ignorant to the losses the Seahawks endured and emphasizing that of the 49ers, but it's just solely because of the fact that the Seahawks addressed those losses more intently, in my opinion. So for schematic nuances, I'm only going to talk about the Seahawks for this one. I think we already know what to expect from Mike Macdonald too. So I'm just going to go through Clint Kubiak's system and just his coaching tendencies. So he runs a Shanahan-style West Coast system that leans heavily on outside zone runs, play action, and even rhythm-based passing. It's a quarterback-friendly system, and it's designed to simplify reads for Sam Darnold and create explosive plays off of that play action that is so necessary in this offense. I think this suits Sam Darnold really well. One of the biggest differences I expect from him and Grubb is the intentionality in play calling. I feel like Grubb play calling was kind of, I guess you would say, arbitrary, and the offense often felt disconnected from down and distance situations, which led to stalled drives and a lot of frustration. With Kubiak, I expect a more structured, adaptable approach that helps keep the offense ahead of the chains. You can also expect more pre-snap motions, a stronger commitment to the run, as I've said, and layered route concepts that open up opportunities in the middle of the field more. There will obviously be a lot of growing pains in the new system, but overall, I feel like Kubiak's scheme will give the Seahawks a clearer offensive identity and a better chance to play Sam Darnold's strengths this season. To wrap up this video, let's go over my score prediction for week 1. I'm sure you guys could tell throughout this breakdown who I'm leaning toward, and I'm going to take the Seahawks in this matchup 24-21. I think Seattle can use the uncertainty around their new offensive scheme to their advantage, forcing the 49ers to adjust on the fly. I also expect the offense to look presentable in week 1. Not necessarily perfect, but organized enough to move the ball and create scoring opportunities. On the other side, the 49ers have a lot to figure out themselves if they want to stay atop of the division, especially with some roster and schematic questions heading into the season. Overall, I'm predicting a competitive game, but I'll take the Seahawks to edge this one out as they set the tone for the season and build momentum under this new identity. Thank you all for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed. I'd greatly appreciate if you could like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if you agree or disagree with these predictions, and I hope you guys have an amazing day. Go Hawks!